All right, so today we are continuing on with our solving equations chapter. This is day 7. This goes right along with section 3.7, so go ahead and find that in your notes. It says using charts to solve equations. Everybody on the right page? All right, let's do it. So, these are some of the equations we're going to be working with today.
We're going to draw that box just right there.
Is the box in your notes yet? Nope, you don't have to draw the box. You'll see that box a lot. That's just kind of a preview of what's coming. So don't worry about drawing that. These equations should already be in your notes as well. Do you all see them up at the top? So if you're finding the cost of something, here's how you do it. You take the number of items you're talking about. You multiply it by the price of each item, and that's the overall cost. Okay? Second equation that you are going to see today is if you're talking about the value of an item. So the value of an item, very similar to cost, it's how many items you have times the value of each equals the overall value. And then hours that you work, again, very similar. It's the number of hours you worked times how much they're going to pay you each hour. That will give you your income. Any questions on those equations? All right, so part A says that Missy spent $8.40 for several pencils, costing 20 cents each, and some notebooks costing $1.20 each. She bought 7 more pencils than notebooks. How many notebooks did she buy? So this is the type of problem you will see today. Here's how we're going to set it up. We're going to make a chart. Yes. So we're talking about 2 items, pencils and notebooks. And we are using that equation. Items times the price equals the cost. All right, so in this problem, we are going to call notebooks N. We are also going to call pencils N plus 7. Do you know why we're calling the number of pencils N plus 7? Yes.
Because she bought 7 more pencils.
Yes, she bought 7 more pencils than notebooks. So if N represents the number of notebooks she bought, N plus 7 would give us the number of pencils that she bought. Any questions at the moment? Where did that part come from?
That's how much the pencils are.
That's how much the pencils are. So we're just following right along with this equation. Here's the number of items, N and N plus 7. The price per item, so 20 cents. And $1.20. So that would give us the cost. So this times this gives us the cost, right? So after you find these 2 columns, the number of items, the price per item, you just multiply those together to get the cost. Any questions? Yes.
Do we have to solve them?
Yeah, we're actually going to set them all up first, and then we're going to solve them. So, not quite.
We didn't have to solve any problems.
No, you're right ahead of me. Okay, so this is the cost for pencils, correct? This is the cost per notebooks. Do I know what she spent on them separately or all together? All together. So that's where this big guy comes from. This part is the cost of the pencils plus the cost of the notebooks. This is the total, okay? We're going to come back to this in a little bit, okay? So leave some space under this problem we're going to come back. All right? I want to practice the setup first. You already know how to solve this. That's what we did last week. Okay? And by last week, I mean Monday. Sorry, it's been a very long week. All right, any questions before we set up the next one? All right, here is part B. This says, Ruby has $2.55 in dimes and quarters. Oh, Rudy, not Ruby. He has 8 more dimes than quarters. How many quarters does he have? So, here's our 2 items, dimes and quarters. We're talking about the value of the money here. So the number of dimes times the value of each dime would give you the total value in dimes. The number of quarters times the value of a quarter would give you the total value of all the quarters. All right, so if the number of quarters is Q, the number of dimes is, what did we say? Q plus 8, because you have 8 more dimes than quarters. What is the value of a dime? 10. Oh, that's a quarter. The value of a dime, don't write it in cents unless you want to change the overall value to cents, like 255 cents. So just leave it like that, okay? So keep it as a decimal, dollars and cents, right? All right, and then the value, we multiply those 2 together. Here, don't forget that you're going to have to distribute times the Q and the 8, all right? So we write the value first times the number of dimes and the value times the number of quarters. Now, when I add these values together, what should I get? 255, because all together in his hand he has $2.55. So that will be my equation. So 10 cents times the number of dimes, 25 cents times the number of quarters, add them together, that gives you the total value of money that he has. Questions? This says that Fritz makes $4 an hour working after school and $5 an hour working on Saturdays. Last week he made $52.50 working a total of 12 hours. How many hours did he work on Saturday? So let's set up a table. After school hours, Saturday hours. And this is the equation we're going to keep coming back to. The number of hours worked times the pay per hour is the overall income. If I call Saturday X, what would after school hours be? Yes.
X minus 1.
So he works 1 less hour on after school. This is the number of hours worked. See how it's in the hours worked column? So what do I know about the number of hours worked? Yes. 12 hours. So if I said, well, 5 of those hours were on Saturday, how many would have been after school? 7. What did you just do in your head?
Math. Thinking.
Thank you. What did you do with the 5 that I told you was the number of Saturday hours?
We added 7 to it.
Where'd you come up with the 7? Yeah, you subtract the number of Saturday hours from the total number of hours, and that leaves you how many were worked after school. You did it in your head, you didn't even realize you were doing it, okay? So no matter how many hours he worked on Saturday, like if he worked 0 hours, then all 12 would have been after school. If he worked 1 hour, 11 hours were after school. If he worked 2 hours, then 10 of those hours were after school. So each time, you're just subtracting the Saturday hours from the after-school hours. Okay? All right, after school, how much does he make? $4 an hour. On Saturdays, how much does he make? $5 an hour.
Well, he works pretty cheap.
I know. This must have been before minimum wage. Maybe just like dog sitting or something, you know. All right. So how will I find the income?
12 minus x times 4.
Yeah, 12 minus x times 4, or we typically write the 4 in the front with parentheses.
12 minus. Oh, wait.
So this times 4. Yeah, so I would have said 4 times, but I knew what he meant. And then for the Saturday hours?
5x.
5x. Good. And if I add those together, that should be his total income, which is $52.50. What questions do you have?
This is a lot of work.
It is a lot of work. That's why we're only doing 4 questions today.
That's good.
Yep.
Do we have any homework to go with this?
Mm-hmm. Of course.
How many questions are
I don't know. All right.
20.
Part D. We're going to set up the last equation, and then we're going to go back and solve all these equations that we wrote. So this says 75 members of the Medical Society attended the annual dinner of the society. An equal number of non-members attended. Tickets for non-members cost $10 more than tickets for members. If ticket sales totaled $4,095, how much did each ticket cost? Whoa. So our 2 categories are members and non-members.
What?
Value.
What?
Value.
What about the value?
It's a value problem.
Yes. Well, it's a cost problem, but it's the same type. So we want the number of tickets sold times the price. That will give us the cost. Okay? And this is the total cost of all the tickets. Any idea where to start? Yes, ma'am.
65.
Oh, yes, ma'am.
65 and
65 members of the society attended the annual dinner. An equal number of non-members attended. So yes, these would both be 65. Members they gave us right off the bat, and then it says non-members is the same. So the same as 65 is 65. Now we need the price. Do we know the price? No.
Except for non-members.
Non-members, we know that it's that price plus 10. So if I call the member price M, what would I call the non-member price? M plus 10. And then you multiply those 2 columns together. Don't forget your parentheses on the second one. That's the cost for these tickets. That is a lot of money. All right, add those together. $4,095. It's probably like a fundraiser dinner, you know. They overprice the tickets to make some money. Yeah, fancy. This is the equation we wrote for problem A. How should I solve this? Yes, sir, in the front.
Distribute 0.2 to n plus 7.
Yes, you can distribute the 0.2 to the n and the 7. So that's 0.2n. And then 0.2 times 7. It's like 14, and then you move the decimal in, right? All right, and I got rid of those extra zeros. When you're talking about money and the final answer, you need the extra zeros, but along the way, it doesn't particularly matter. All right, so that second line, we can combine the like terms. Oh, nope, I forgot. We're going to do our trick. Just ignore me. We'll get rid of the decimals first, and then we'll combine the like terms. I'm getting one step ahead of myself. So when I multiply everything in that equation by 10, I'm just moving the decimal one place to the right. So that's going to be 2n plus 14 plus 12n equals 84. Now we'll do the like terms. So it's 14n plus 14 equals 84. All right, you can subtract 14 from both sides. And then divide both sides by 14. And we should get that n equals 5. Yes, girl, either one. Yeah, if you don't times it by 10, that's fine. You just probably can't do as much of it in your head, or it'll just take you a little longer. But yeah, you should get the same answer if you solved it correctly. Either method should give you the same answer, so you're good. Questions? And remember that n in the first problem, we were talking about notebooks and pencils. So n represents the number of notebooks. So then take it back to like a real answer, 5 notebooks. Questions? All right, here's our equation for part B. So we'll do the same thing we did on the last one. We'll get rid of the parentheses first. So go ahead and distribute. We're talking about dimes, as you remember, dimes and quarters. So the 0.10, that's the dimes. You can drop the 0, then distribute. It's just less decimals you have to worry about. How do I get rid of all the decimals? Multiply by 100, since I need 2 jumps on the back 2. When you multiply by 100, you have 2 jumps in each, and now you can't just drop the zeros since they're before a decimal. So we have 10q plus 80 plus 25q equals 255. All right, we have like terms. 10q and 25q is 35q plus 80 equals 255. All right, then you undo adding 80 by subtracting 80 from both sides. And then divide both sides by 35. And you get that Q equals 5. And what did that represent on number B? Quarters. Good. So you'd say 5 quarters. Questions? All right, here's the equation we wrote for C. How would you guys like to start this one? Yes, you're going to go ahead and distribute the 4 What's 4 times 12? And what's 4 times x? 4x. Don't forget the minus in the middle. Now, has anyone written minus 9x? That would be a mistake. It's one of the most common mistakes I would see on this problem. Why is this not minus 9x? Because of what now? Okay.
Because the 4 is negative and the 5 is positive.
Very good. The 4 is negative, the 5 is positive. So you subtract those two, keep the sign of the larger. So that's 48 plus x equals 5250. Then what?
Take away 48.
Subtract 48 from both sides. Very good. And x was the number of hours worked at which job?
Saturday.
The Saturday. Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Is it okay if we said 4.5?
Sure.
Not
Yep.
fraction, but word it out.
Sure. Yep. All right. And then last one. How would I solve this? Distribute the 65. So 65m plus 65m plus 650, because you multiply the 65 and the 10. That equals 4,095. Combine those like terms. 65m plus 65m is 130m plus 650. Very good. And then we'll divide both sides. And what does this M represent? The cost per ticket for members, right? And remember that non-members paid $10 additional. So 26.5 as money is $26.50. And then add $10 to that. That'll give you the other price. So the members and the non-members. Don't forget in word problems to take it back to whatever way we're talking about. What questions do you guys have? All right, what did we learn about today?
Today we learned how to use charts to solve.
Yes, so charts to solve equations.
Can you write this on the back page?
Anywhere you can squeeze it in. I'll just say we learned about charts